You know all those end times charts you've seen? There's a good chance they all have a massive, overlooked flaw. It's a 7-year problem, and it's been hiding in plain sight this whole time, right in the book of Ezekiel. The Bible describes a strange 7-year period that happens after the great Magog War. It says Israel will spend that time doing something unexpected, burning the enemy's weapons for fuel. This one detail, this 7-year cleanup, just doesn't seem to fit most timelines. It creates a huge timing conflict, and when you really dig into it, it challenges our standard assumptions and points to a radical rethinking of the tribulation itself. 1. The biblical foundation, the 7-year anomaly. Most folks who study Bible prophecy know Ezekiel 38 like the back of their hand. It lays out a massive future invasion of Israel, led by a figure called Gog of Magog, who brings a whole coalition of nations with him. But what many people skim right over is what happens after God supernaturally wipes out this army. The focus is almost always on the invasion, but the aftermath is where the prophetic timeline gets really interesting. Let's go straight to the source. This is Ezekiel chapter 39, verses 9 and 10. Then those who dwell in the cities of Israel will go out and set on fire and burn the weapons, both the shields and bucklers, the bows and arrows, the javelins and spears, and they will make fires with them for 7 years. They will not take wood from the field, nor cut down any from the forests, because they will make fires with the weapons. And they will plunder those who plundered them, and pillage those who pillaged them, says the Lord God. Did you catch that? For 7 years, the entire nation of Israel will use the leftover military gear for fuel. And notice how specific God is here. He doesn't just say a long time, he gives a precise number, 7 years. That number is there for a reason. And this is where the trouble starts for the standard timelines. 2. The problem, a prophetic paradox. Here's the paradox this 7-year cleanup creates. For decades, the most popular end times theories have tried to place the Gog of Magog War in one of 2 spots, either right before the 7-year tribulation or somewhere in the first half of it. But let's think this through. First, let's take the idea that the war happens during the first half of the tribulation. How could Israel possibly spend 7 years cleaning up? The math just doesn't work. A 7-year cleanup that starts a year into the tribulation would stretch 6 years past the second coming of Christ and into his 1,000-year reign. Why would Israel be burning weapons for fuel when Jesus is physically on earth reigning in a kingdom of perfect peace? It doesn't add up. Okay, so what about the other popular view? What if the war happens immediately before the tribulation, sparking the Antichrist's 7-year peace covenant? Again, we have a head-on collision. If Israel starts a 7-year cleanup at the exact same time the 7-year tribulation begins, the 2 periods run parallel. This presents a serious problem. The last 3.5 years of that period are called the Great Tribulation, a time of horrific persecution against Israel. Jesus himself said it would be a time of suffering unlike any other. So you have to ask yourself, how could a nation that is fleeing for its very life be calmly and methodically gathering enemy weapons for fuel across the land? It's a question that this timeline struggles to answer. This 7-year detail isn't a mistake. It's a key that suggests we might need to re-examine the whole sequence of events. 3. The investigation, deconstructing the war and its aftermath. To solve this, we have to clear up a common point of confusion. The Gog of Magog War is not the same thing as the Battle of Armageddon. While some theologians see them as connected, many scholars point out that the Bible presents them with different leaders, different nations involved, and critically, very different outcomes. Armageddon involves all nations, is led by the Antichrist, and ends with the return of Jesus Christ, followed immediately by judgment. There's no 7-year cleanup after Armageddon. The Gog of Magog War, however, is unique, and its aftermath is spelled out for us. God doesn't just mention the 7 years of burning weapons. He adds another staggering detail in Ezekiel 39, verse 12. For 7 months, the house of Israel will be burying them in order to cleanse the land. 7 months, a nationwide effort just to bury the dead. Think about the sheer scale of that. These 2 time frames, 7 years for weapons, 7 months for bodies, are like divine bookends for the war's aftermath. Now, whether you see these numbers as literal, down to the day counts, or as symbolic of a complete, lengthy period, they scream one thing. This is a long, drawn-out recovery for Israel. Of course, Ezekiel describes ancient weapons, bows, arrows, and spears, because a prophet can only describe the future in terms he understands. Whatever the modern equivalent is, the amount of leftover material will be so huge that it provides a national energy source for 7 full years. This tells us two things: the insane size of the invading army and the absolute totality of their defeat by God's hand alone. So, we have an invasion, a supernatural defeat, and a long cleanup period. It's a sequence that you can't really shoehorn into the standard tribulation timeline without ignoring the plain text. What we're finding is that one small detail can change how we see everything. If this is helping you see the scriptures in a new light, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really helps the channel reach more people searching for answers. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive. 4. The Revelation, a new prophetic timeline. So, if it doesn't fit during the tribulation, what's the answer? The most straightforward solution is that the Gog of Magog War and its lengthy cleanup must take place and be resolved before the 7-year tribulation even begins. This means there has to be a gap of time between this war and the rise of the Antichrist. This simple adjustment completely reframes the prophetic calendar. The Gog of Magog War isn't the event that kicks off the tribulation. Instead, it looks like the event that sets the stage for it. Just picture the world after this war. A massive Russian-led coalition is annihilated on the mountains of Israel, not by any army, but by God himself. The world would be in shock. Israel, miraculously saved, would experience a new national confidence and spiritual awakening. And the power vacuum left by this destroyed coalition creates the perfect environment for a charismatic leader, the Antichrist, to step in with a promise of global security and a guaranteed peace deal for Israel. This war serves a purpose that God states clearly in Ezekiel 39. So I will make my holy name known in the midst of my people Israel. Then the nations shall know that I am the Lord, the Holy One in Israel. This event is a global wake-up call. It's the thunderclap before the storm. The 7-year cleanup, then, isn't a prophetic problem. It's the prophetic key. It unlocks the sequence, showing the Gog-Magog War has to be a separate pre-tribulation event. 5. Implications and conclusion. The so what. So what does this adjusted timeline mean for us today? First, it suggests that the next major prophetic war on the calendar isn't Armageddon. It's the Ezekiel 38 invasion. This event could happen at any time. It doesn't need the tribulation to have started. That dramatically increases the sense of imminence. Second, it shows us something about God's character. In the middle of a terrifying war, God not only saves his people, but provides for them from the wreckage. The very weapons built to destroy Israel become their source of heat and energy for 7 years. It's a powerful picture of God turning what an enemy means for evil into good. Finally, the purpose of this war isn't just judgment, it's revelation. It's meant to reveal God's glory to Israel and to the world. Ezekiel 39 ends with a profound promise that God will restore Israel and pour out his Spirit on them, vowing never to hide his face from them again. This war, as terrifying as it will be, acts as a catalyst for Israel's final redemption. The Bible's prophecies are an intricate, divinely woven story, and every detail matters. That 7-year cleanup isn't a throwaway line. It's a critical timing key that challenges us to look again at our charts and timelines. It suggests a clear order. First, a preparatory war that reveals God's power. Then a recovery period, which in turn sets the stage for the final 7 years of this age. At the end of the day, our job isn't to be fearful, but to be watchful and faithful. To study the scriptures, understand the signs, and trust the sovereign God who holds all of history, down to the smallest detail, in his hands. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.